Welcome to Small Biz Life, episode 125. Is social media hurting your business?
Does this sound familiar?
Oh my God, I have so much to do today.
Don't forget to breathe.
But I have almost 400 emails in my inbox and 30 phone calls to make.
Have you looked into getting a virtual assistant yet?
Oh, and I need to schedule all my social media posts.
Did you drink anything today?
I had coffee.
Did you eat today?
Did I mention coffee's a bean?
This is Small Biz Life.
Hey guys, welcome to Small Biz Life. My name's Kristen Ingram.
And I'm Jeffrey Ingram.
And we're a husband-wife team of small business owners who are walking this journey with you that we call the Small Biz Life. And this week, we've been seeing a lot in the news about, changes to social media, changes to the Facebook algorithm.
Well, a lot of it is around this idea that social media is bad for you.
Mm-hmm. And so we kind of want to talk about, is social media hurting your business?
And we had assumptions going in, and we'll talk a little bit about those, but then we'll talk about sort of what we found and why we were wrong, actually.
Mm-hmm. And maybe some ways to help fix it.
Yeah, of course.
So, I think a lot of times when we're thinking about, how social media could be hurting your business, I think when we started doing the research for this, we kind of thought okay, well, it's a time suck, right? I'm spending way too much time on social media.
Or I might get bad reviews if I interact with people online, especially if I'm an offline business. Reviews might destroy me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think, there's this fear that when we're out on social media as a business owner that your competition is watching.
And you're right, they probably are. If you're successful, you're probably being watched and mimicked.
Right, and they're going to learn all my secrets and they're going to steal them away. And that's not, those are things that might potentially harm your business.
But they're things that you might be doing as well. You're probably looking at the people around you and saying, what are they up to?
But these aren't really the three big things that are really going to harm your business. What's really happening is the effect that social media has on you. And, you might not really think about it. But, the more research that we did, there have been a lot of studies on social media and mental health.
Yes. And the thing we find interesting is the four things that we're going to get into here can affect you irregardless if you're a small business owner. But we really want to talk about how these are going to affect especially a small business owner.
And I will tell you that from the consulting and the coaching that I'm doing with small businesses, this is real. I've seen this with small business owners I've worked with, where social media is adversely affecting their mental health. It's adversely affecting their perception of things. And, I think it's really important. There's kind of this debate going on with a lot of us that are kind of in the information space where we are our businesses. We're the face of our businesses, the brand of our businesses.
Except for tax purposes, we're manufacturing.
That's right. Except for tax purposes, we're not. And if you watch the tax webinar, you got that joke. But the thing that we're talking about and that we're debating is, how real should we be on social media? Because if we are constantly just putting out, this ideal version of what business looks like or what our lives look like, then are we really giving an accurate portrayal of what's going on? Are we giving an accurate portrayal of what small business looks like or what being a brand looks like? And it's not really authentic.
Yeah, and to be honest, I was in the FB.com news feed, which is where the Facebook puts out a lot of their information on their changes they're making. And one of the things they were going after were brands because they were saying that brands were inauthentic. And I think a lot of it is, it's you go to someone's brand page and all the pictures are perfect and everything is just the way you want it to see, and it doesn't feel real to life, and that helps cause some of these problems. And the first one I want to get into here is the comparison problem. And this is kind of the root of, I think, the other problems as well. But we start comparing ourselves to people we see online. And the irony is we typically put our best face forward when we're online. Not everyone, but I think most people do.
A lot of times when your name is attached to it,
especially
when
when
it's
your name's
anonymous
attached to
stuff,
it.
it's a little bit
Yeah,
different.
that's true. Yeah, we're not talking about trolling in YouTube comments here. But now, I think the thing is with comparison, though, is we forget that these other people who are out there are doing the same thing. The guy who you used to be in a business group with, who's now sitting on the beach delivering videos, talking about how he's making $1 million every 10 minutes, and he hasn't worked in the past 42 years. Besides the fact he's probably lying, almost assuredly lying. The simple fact is he's presenting a story of himself to sell his products and services.
Right. And just because, people are posting on social media these beautiful videos, it is so cheap now to make beautiful videos. It is so easy to craft a narrative that, could be completely fake. When somebody sends you an email saying, wow, we've sold 10,000 tickets. And, if you don't get your tickets right now, you have no idea how many tickets they've sold. One thing I always tell business owners, when you launch and nobody buys your product, and we've had this happen. We have launched and we have had the first major course launch we ever did. One person bought the course and I felt so bad. I refunded the money.
That was the tax camp or something like that?
That was the tax boot camp course. Okay. One person bought it and I was just like, I'm just going to refund the money, and that was it. But you know what? Until I told you that story, none of you knew that.
We know people who we've talked to online who think everything we've done is turned to gold, and we're making money online, and we're increasing the amount of money we make all of the time. We're nowhere close to our income before I left my 6-figure job.
Right.
We've just made adjustments to give us the chance to be able to do it a little quicker.
Right, exactly. But that's the thing though, is like, I have seen, people have come to me and said, I am going to just shut down my business because this person over here, is like, they're just killing it. And I look terrible compared to that person and I can't be that person. And I know full well that person isn't making any money.
And it's funny too, because a lot of times, like, reading, especially copy and emails, if you believe people and what they say in their emails, you're like, wow, they're killing it. But there are other types of things that Kristen and I are, well, Kristen's more questioning. I might be a bit cynical at times. We watch what the underlying current is. And a lot of times you'll notice that even though it sounds like they're doing better and better, they get more and more desperate, and you can see like they start piling on more freebies to try and get more signups at the end. It's probably because they're not selling anything. And so they're saying how good they're selling, but then they're adding more things they're giving away for free, which why would they do that if they were selling? They could just give away to everyone who bought the course because it sold so well. That's what I would do. So I really question a lot of times, even, people's talking about the performance of how they're doing.
Well, and that's, and you'll even see like, and that's the thing. It's like, so I am, on the Myers-Briggs, I am an ENTJ, and my J comes out a lot. But like the thing is, like
don't judge me, bro.
The thing is, when I see people out there that are making like these beautiful videos and they're talking about how like awesome their life is and how great their business is, and then I go back and they have no products for sale on their website, or maybe they have like one like $4 product, and you're like, you can't be killing it with a $4 product.
Yeah.
You just can't be. And what people are like, no, but look at their presence and the hair is beautiful and the nails are beautiful and the video is beautiful and it's all beautiful. And I can't compete. And like, you've got to stop. You've got to stop comparing yourselves to what other people are doing because it's driving y'all crazy.
That's right.
And it's driving me crazy when when you're driving yourselves crazy.
And I think it naturally leads into the second one here, which is jealousy.
Right.
And jealousy, ironically, over this branded version of themselves that people are pushing.
Yeah, and that's the thing. And it's like when the jealousy, like when that starts rearing its ugly head, it's ugly. And that's where you start, when you're comparing yourself, you start feeling bad internally. But when you start getting jealous of other people, that's when you start spewing hate outward and you start repelling other people away from you.
Yeah. And especially if it starts coming out in your branded content, your hatred for something else, that hurts you because, people who might even agree that they think what you're saying is true, when you take it too far, you're going to lose a certain number of people automatically because they just don't want to be around the negativity.
Right. So that's the thing. So, I think those two, when, you're comparing yourself a lot to other people and then that jealousy starts to come out.
And I think with men and women, jealousy causes a couple different really bad side effects too. Jealous guys will oftentimes do outlandish things that aren't well thought out to try and cut the distance between them and someone else, possibly putting themselves in financial risk or really just stupid crap. And I think a lot of times for women, it has a growing bitterness that sometimes shows up in their own content, and both of those can obviously go either way. I just see it typically more with one gender than the other gender, but I've seen both with both genders. But you can lead yourself to making strategic and tactical blunders in your business just because you're being consumed by jealousy that's probably not even factually based. It's based off of a perception.
Right. And I think a lot of times jealousy ends up rearing its head in cattiness and trolling. I think a lot of trolling stems from people who are jealous of what other people are doing. And it's just not good for your business because it gets you in this mindset that is not going to help you grow your business. No. And sometimes it can even, end up whatever success you've had, you may end up losing because of it. And so it can really damage what you've worked so hard for.
Now, whether or not you're outwardly jealous or even lashing out that way, I think it can also lead to another big problem, which is social isolation. And you see this more and more. People like, I need a break from Facebook, which is fine. I'm not a believer people should be spending their whole day in social media anyway. But even the part where Mark Zuckerberg has come out recently and said, hey, maybe you should spend a little less time on Facebook.
And people are actually, since they've changed the algorithm, one of the things they said in their, when they were releasing their quarterly numbers from fourth quarter was that people are spending less time on the network.
Yeah. And the problem is it extends to real life as well too, because sometimes people who you knew in real life, you now start getting a false perception of them. It goes back to that whole phrase, keeping up with the Joneses. And now you don't want to go out with people who you used to hang out with all the time because you feel like, they're better than you somehow. And, even if they're more successful than you, if you're friends, isn't one of the things that, gurus always say is, you're the sum total of the 5 people you spend the most time with. If they really are more successful than you online, you should be trying to spend more time with them, not less.
Right. And that's the thing. I think what happens, a lot of times when you're comparing yourself to other people, the jealousy starts to, rear its ugly head. Those opportunities where you could go out and network or you could go out with your friends, you get in this really bad place and you don't want to go out anymore. And they're starting to link usage of social media to things like depression, anxiety,
or at least increased levels thereof.
Right. But the thing is, and that's what's contributing to the social isolation. And if you go to the show notes for this episode on smallbizlife.com, we're going to have some articles from Forbes on how social media affects your mental health. It's going to talk about the social isolation, the comparison, the jealousy. There's a lot of studies that are linked. The next one that we actually have is effect on sleep. And they're not sure if it's a direct relationship. It may not be a causational relationship, but there is definitely a link between social media usage and lack of sleep.
And they're not sure which comes first. Like maybe you're struggling to sleep, so you're in social media more, or if you're having trouble sleeping because you're in social media more.
Right.
So, yeah.
So that's the things, but there's still, there's ties between the two.
And anyone who is a member of HQ or has the Focus Master Plan or the old Dreamcatcher assessment, you understand that besides friends and family, we consider sleep really high on the priority list because, especially, as young parents, we've definitely learned that, especially at certain parts of your life, it's difficult to get a good 8 hours of sleep. But it's so essential because you're so much more productive if you can get that 8 hours a night.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And, anything you're doing, if you think about it, if you're on social media and it's making you question what you're doing or it's making you feel bad about yourself or your business, you're not going to sleep as well.
It's also, too, when you see people get so caught up in the presentation that they forget to do other parts of their business, especially if they're online only.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Okay, now let's get to some solutions. What are Kristen's 7 solutions for happiness?
Okay, so a lot of these are going to be...
I'm sorry, I'm laughing at myself. I don't know where that came from.
Your 7 solutions for happiness. Well, I don't know if this... Well, hopefully this will make you happier.
Hopefully this will make you happy.
It will certainly make you more productive.
For entertainment purposes only.
There you go, exactly. Because this is not a medical show and we're not diagnosing anything or anything like that. There you go. The legal team will be happy.
Boo has left the room now. She's decided we've covered our bases.
Okay, good. But these are just kind of some things that have helped us to kind of curtail our social media time. So the first one is to have planned social media time and objectives. I think a lot of people, they have like the planned social media time. Like, I'm going to go on Facebook for 30 minutes, but they don't know what they're going to do while they're there.
And they just kind of hop around and they end up probably on people's profiles or checking out the pictures on Instagram more than they are doing something for the business in social media.
So, it's really important to say, okay, I'm going to go on to X social media channel for 30 minutes and I'm going to go to, I'm going to post something on my page. I'm going to check the activity in my group. And then maybe I'm going to check 1 or 2 other groups.
Yeah.
But make sure that you know what you're going to do when you go in there. Because the time is not enough. Right? Because then you're, like Jeff said, you're going to end up on your wall. You're just going to end up kind of going around and surfing around. And that's where it gets
new
really
Yahtzee
dangerous.
for buddies or bubble games or,
Yeah, exactly. So that's the first one. Scheduled time and objectives. The second one, and I've been like rapidly doing this, unfollow pages, groups, or people that bring up those negative feelings for you.
And I'm going to put in something crazy here. If there's certain areas you really struggle with, where you're really frustrated all the time, let's say it's politics or some such thing around the lines of politics, social media is designed to show us stuff that we'll react to traditionally. And so one of my suggestions is to actually go find some places that reasonably talk from a position you disagree with. Because of the way social media has started to flow information that we want to see or that we'll react to in front of us, we actually have bad perceptions on what actually people believe.
Yeah, no, I think that's a really good point.
But not during your business time.
But so what I've done, I've actually cut out a lot of groups that I used to be in.
And they really need to stop allowing people to just add you to groups. It's like, I'll do that. And I've kind of given up on the whole group thing. And maybe I should just go and unfollow them instead of leave the groups, because I get added groups all the time that I have no idea even what they are.
So what I do, if you do it on desktop, like if you're on a computer,
you can unfollow like a profile.
Well, you can leave a group and then say, do not allow anyone to add me to this group again.
Okay.
So if I'm doing like group removal, if I'm removing myself from groups, I always do it from a computer, not my phone.
Yep. And this kind of goes along the lines, this could be one of your objectives that you have when you go on, along with, I want to go to these 5 groups and I want to see if anyone's talking in my space so I can follow up with them.
Yep, exactly. But I've also, one thing I've noticed too is like I've kind of gone through like all the pages that I belong to, and I've gone through a whole bunch of pages that I don't really care about. And I'm also making sure that if there are pages that make me feel good when I'm on social media, like Brendan Burchard's stuff is fantastic. It's very inspirational. It's very motivational. So like I actually have him pegged to like see him as one of the first things that I see when I come on social. And I don't necessarily like, it's not stuff that like I'm going to engage with for a long time and comment on and get really engrossed
But like
with.
his image quotes and stuff like that.
But you know what? But when I go into Facebook and I see one of his things at the top of the screen, I know it's not one of those things that's going to piss me off or drive me crazy or cause me anxiety or whatever. So it's kind of a nice, peaceful thing that when you go into Facebook, that's the first thing you see is something from Brendan Burchard. And then like if there are people that like you are constantly comparing yourself to that, you don't feel good when you see this person's stuff, even if it's not them, if it's you, you can unfollow people without unfriending them.
Yep.
And so I have unfollowed a lot of people. Part of it is like because politics has gotten so nasty on both sides. Part of it is like people they're like everything they post is like a forward or,
There's nothing from them.
Right. But yeah, so kind of go through and clean up your feed and prioritize the things that make you happy. I think that's huge.
Yeah. And I think along those lines too, if there's certain types of interactions you're missing, it's like I know there's been stuff going on, with my family. And so, but we've started like a messenger group up. And we just kind of message each other. Chris and I will send pictures and videos of the baby. My sisters will send pictures of their kids and I get pictures of my mom. And it's just all fun stuff going back and forth. So we know when we get stuff in there that it's not the forward from some political page. It's not some junk thing. It's family being able to be family, even though we live so far apart.
Yeah, and I think that's a really cool. That's kind of a really cool place. And when I see that, I'm like, oh, it's family stuff. Yay. So that might be something too that like instead of, trying to follow like what your parents are doing or what your siblings are doing, just put together like a messenger group, and communicate that way. And then that way it's another reason you don't have to go to your wall.
Okay. So what's this next one that Jeffrey's going to get excited about?
Okay. So, the third one is use group shortcuts and the Pages app to manage your activity. So when I talk to people, it's typically, the issue that they have with like Facebook, and it's typically Facebook, is that like they go, they open up the Facebook app and they see something they want to engage with, and then they like go down that rabbit hole and they spend 25 minutes on their wall, or on their feed. So what we do, and unfortunately, like I'm annoyed that Facebook doesn't let you do this anymore on your phone. You used to be able to create shortcuts to groups.
Yes, my desktop is littered with them. That was in the old Groups app, which is now defunct.
Right, which is now defunct. But like if you're going in to manage your own pages, use the Pages app on your phone.
But what you could also do too is if you create like in your mobiles folder, like if you use a Chrome browser, you can create like a folder of Facebook group links and actually just save the URL as a bookmark and that access it from your phone or from your desktop, have it all in one spot.
Yeah, and kind of what I do on my computer, you could either create links on your computer to do this, or what I do is I have my favorite items on Facebook. So when I go into Facebook, the first thing I see on the left-hand side is like the HQ group, the Small Biz Life community.
And you can manually sort that. Yeah.
Right. And I have them manually sorted so that like the things that I want to go in and check, because I have the objectives from step one, I can just go in and get to those really quickly.
Yeah, most definitely.
Okay. So the next one, if you haven't already done this, turn off your notifications.
Many of us want to be much more important in the lives of our customers than we need to be. And, we don't need to respond within 30 seconds to all of our customers. Now, this is not saying if you have a business contract with them that says you will be a certain amount of responsive, even if you have do not disturb turned on your phone, you can actually let them leak through that. You can say, except for this phone number or that phone number.
Yep.
With do not disturb on phones now, you can get very granular but just keep your notifications turned off when you're working.
Yeah, especially the social media ones.
And email ones too, I'm sorry.
But, I think, the thing is we need to set boundaries with
Ourselves,
with our customers, with prospects. For most of us, what we do is not life-threatening, right? If we don't respond within, an hour, most of what we do, clients are not going to die. So you're not doing anything where it's so pressing that you have to be available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.
Yeah, and you know what too? Put up an autoresponder on the weekend. Say, I'm sorry. Our operating hours are from this time to this time, and we typically do not respond to emails in those times. And even put some copy in there too, and say, but here's links to go join us here, join us here, join us there. But do it through autoresponder, and then that's not to say like if you're like most people, you're checking your email, let's say Saturday morning. If there's something you feel you need to respond to, you have the option to, but you're not obliged to until Monday.
Yeah, and the great thing, with your pages, you can have a messenger bot. So if somebody messages you through your page, you can try to pull them off of social media and say, hey, you know what? If you want a quicker response, check email. Here's my email address. Because I think a lot of times, like people think like, oh, if I can get you through Facebook Messenger, you're gonna, you should respond right away. And so there are definitely ways to get around that through, with technology. And messenger bots are a great way to send automated messages. So I like that a lot. Okay, so the next thing, close out the windows when it's not part of your planned time.
I do. My least productive days working are when I typically have Facebook and email opened up in mini tabs all over. I have two monitors, so I can have many tabs displayed at one time. And so Sundays is like I'll keep opening one more thing and I never close it, which I think a lot of people do. But then the problem is you see like, I have 2 notifications on Twitter and 4 on Facebook and 3 in Google Plus and let me stop the task I need to be focused on to move my business to the next level so I can have more money to spend more time with my family. That important stuff. I sometimes get distracted on because I see I have like a Facebook notification. And, sometimes like if I put up a post where I want engagement, I leave them open, but that's because my focus is really that thread for the next 30 minutes. And I might work on something else while I'm doing that. But if I'm working on that something else and I'm done with that time, I close it down.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think that's really helpful, especially with email, with social. Try to keep your computer focused on what you really need to get done, right? Close out anything that you don't really need.
And for all you HQ members in January, go to how I set up my desktop. I have like folders set up with links to everything within them. If I'm doing certain types of activities, I only see certain programs on my computer at one time.
Yeah, that's January of 2017. That's
2016.
17. It's 18 now.
Oh, it's 18 now? Yes, I know what year it is.
That's all right. Last one, talk about being new parents. Last week, Jeff thought that it was
Friday.
It was Friday and it was Tuesday. So yeah, it's welcome to parenthood. So one thing that I know a lot of business owners are starting to do, and this is one that I haven't been able to do yet, but I'm working on it. Only use social media on your computer. Take it off your phone. This is really hard for a lot of people. But the thing is, when you have your phone with you all the time, that means that you can be checking social media all the time. And the more time you spend on social media, the worse some of these things like depression and anxiety comparison can get.
And the more likely you're sitting on bed in social media and you're already annoyed, take them off your phone. And that's actually a good thing. That's maybe something I want to do. That's not to say like every type of messaging device you should get rid of. There's certain things like Vox we use or Facebook Messenger I'll probably leave on my phone because I do use that for my phone.
But take Facebook off.
But take Facebook off.
Yeah.
Especially on the phone, they're separate.
Yep. No, I like that. I think it's a good idea. But that's the thing. It's easier to stay, within your time budget within your objectives if you're just using social media on your computer. And even things like, if you're like, well, how am I going to post to Instagram? Well, there's something called Grum that we use to be able to post to Instagram from the computer. And you can schedule stuff. It's great. It's
But
awesome.
the thing is, let's say you can't get Chrome. All right, leave Instagram on your computer, because I understand a lot of people do very well with Instagram. Keep that on your computer, but only use it to post. Close it down, open it up on your computer to comment and do all the other types of activities you do on Instagram. I don't know what those activities are because I don't use Instagram. Even though FYI, there'll be a time link as well talking about how that's the most negative social media. Just saying.
Yeah, they actually say that Instagram's the worst for your mental health. So that's fun. Go to smallbizlife.com and look at that that link. And then, one thing, and this is just kind of strategy overall. This isn't necessarily for this, but this is a good, rule of thumb. Pick one or two networks that you're going to interact with and then automate the rest. So like Facebook is pretty much the only one that I'm actually on, that I'm paying attention to and where I interact with people. Instagram, Twitter, Pinterest, Google Plus, LinkedIn, everything else is automated. We have a service that sends stuff there. If we post when we post a new episode, I'll probably hit the share to Pinterest button. But Facebook is really the only place that I'm engaging right now. Now, we get traffic. Like I notice we get traffic from LinkedIn when I post there because I've got a pretty large network on LinkedIn. But but I don't see a lot of people like commenting on stuff. I know we're getting downloads from it. And I know that people are going to our website from it, but it's not like Facebook where people interact and leave comments and really get into discussion there. So, spend time where people are going to interact with you. And plus it's a lot less to manage. And
one other suggestion too is, I know in, especially if you're in the creative space and certain industries might be good or not, I've started to see an uptick over this past year in Google Plus again for comments, which I find interesting. So I might be spending more time there for the other brand, but pay attention and use those reports if you have a social media automator to see where you're getting the interactions from. Because maybe it's not where you think it is. Maybe you should be spending more time in Twitter, or maybe you should be spending more time in Instagram or one of the other areas.
Yeah, and that's one of the nice things, with something like Recur Post, is it tells us where the interaction is coming from. So it's really important to know where your audience is, and don't try to stretch yourself trying to compete on 6 different platforms.
No, that's one of those things that you can do better with scale. So as you get scale, like I'm not great at making images for Pinterest. It's just not my skill set. I'm okay at doing Facebook and the images for other places, but Pinterest and Instagram need a little bit higher quality photos, which I'm just not good at doing. I don't stress out about it. And but the thing is, when I scale out, I'll probably start paying people to create me images for my posts to start putting boards together.
Yeah, exactly. So those are, 7 things to take a look at. So real quick, plan your social media time and objectives. Unfollow strategically is a really good thing to do. Use shortcuts and the Pages app to manage your activity. Turn off your notifications. Close windows that you're not using. Try to use social media just on your computer. And then just pick 1 or 2 networks to interact with and automate the rest. It'll be good for you. It'll be good for your sleep. It'll be good for your mental health. If this is something that you notice that is happening to you, and you need some help with this, post in the Facebook group. If you're a member of HQ, you get direct access to us all the time. And if you're in the bigger community, the Small Biz Life community, feel free to post there. Or if you find any articles about how social media is affecting people's mental health, feel free to post them in that group.
And here's a new strategy I want you all to employ over this next week. When you see that person who's sort of in your space, who's really good at social media at a platform where you're maybe a jealous or approaching jealousy with them and you wish you were as good as they do, instead of disliking them, take a moment and try and befriend them and see if they can help you up your game.
Yeah, absolutely. Because
you'll be shocked. A lot of people like to talk.
Yeah, and it's interesting because the longer that we've been doing, especially like the online business side, I think people, when they're first starting, they think it's really competitive and cutthroat. Most of the online business owners that I've met, even in our space, are really cool people and are very supportive.
Most of the big ones you have to pay to get information from at any level. But, you know, but most of the people who are up and coming even are very talkative and very much sharing what they know, because it helps them get better at what they're doing and get better at their craft. You know, especially if you ask people specific questions, not open-ended questions, you know, give me a yes or no, or give me 3 things or 5 things. Most people are willing to respond to those because they're not thinking, oh, this email is going to take me 20 minutes. I'll just do it later.
Yeah, absolutely. But, you know, go out there, and I think the more...
I'm so ultra about email, huh?
I know, right? But, you know, I think when you go out there and you actually start building relationships with people, you kind of see that, like, first off, they might be a lot nicer than you think they are. And you might realize that the perception that you have is not really accurate.
And next time you hop into that live video of this person who you dislike because they're so successful, and you see the interactions flying across the screen, take a moment before you get too jealous to look at the number of people in there, because you can get programs to throw images across those screens for you, and then you just stream the video. And so sometimes people look, they're getting a bunch of interaction, and you're like the only person in there watching.
Yep. So, I mean, that's the thing, you know, don't think that what you're seeing is necessarily reality, because it's possible it's not. So we hope that this episode was helpful for you. You know, feel free to, you know, connect with us via the Small Biz Life community, facebook.com/groups/smallbizlife. And make that part of your objective time to, you know, spend some time with other business owners. Thank you so much. We'll see you next time.
This was Small Biz Life.